Sunscreen. What in the world is SPF anyway? Hey YouTube family, Dr. Max Greenlee here. Let's go over what in the world SPF is, tips for best sunscreen usage, and how sunscreen actually works. All that and more coming up next. So what in the world does SPF mean? SPF is an abbreviation for skin protection factor. So sunscreen is expressed as a ratio. That little number after the SPF is the ratio to express how long it takes before you get a sunburn. SPF means something different to every individual. But let's go over how you can tell what it means for you. So to keep things simple, let's say on any given day you go out into the sun and it takes you 10 minutes before you start experiencing a sunburn. How you can find out how long the sunscreen will keep you protected before you get a sunburn with the sunscreen on is to take that 10 minutes and you multiply it by the SPF number. So with SPF 15 sunscreen, multiply that by 10 minutes. It normally takes you to get burnt without sunscreen and you get 150 minutes of sun exposure before you get burnt with the sunscreen correctly applied. Okay, before we get into how sunscreen works and which sunscreen is best, let's go over quickly how to apply it correctly. So sunscreen application is super simple, but we get it wrong almost all the time, myself included. It's all about timing. You want to make sure you put your sunscreen on 30 minutes before sun exposure to make sure you're fully protected as soon as you go out into the sun. If you have dark skin like me, sometimes you can get away with putting on sunscreen when you get to the beach and not before. Because for me, personally, it takes about 60 minutes before I start to get the first signs of a sunburn. So the 30 minutes it takes for the sunscreen to sink in is just fine in my case. But if it only takes 15 to 20 minutes before you start getting your first signs of a sunburn, you can have a full-on sunburn even after putting on sunscreen if you waited till you got to the beach to apply it. The other thing is that is super important about application is to follow the directions on the bottle, because though SPF is a multiplicative factor like we spoke of before, most of the time your sweat will cause the sunscreen to rinse off well before the SPF number would indicate the protection should last. Okay, now let's go over how sunscreen works and what SPF is going to be right for you before I give you a few pro tips. Sunscreen works chemically by absorbing a specific portion of the spectrum of the sun, preventing harmful rays from hitting the skin surface. No harmful rays on the skin, no sunburn. The chemicals that sunscreen use to provide its amazing benefit are PABA, cinnamates, ethyl hexyl salicylates, and benzophenones. Most sunscreens contain combinations of 2 or 3 of these classes of active chemicals. So what SPF is the correct SPF? An SPF of at least 15 is recommended for most people by the Skin Cancer Foundation, and products with SPF over 30 only block UVB slightly more than those of SPF 30. In the higher you get in SPF past 30, the more chemicals that are going to be in it and the more likelihood is that you could possibly have an allergic reaction to the sunscreen. I always recommend 30 SPF as the Goldilocks sweet spot. Okay. So as an avid beachgoer and a surfer for more years than I care to remember, I'm not gonna let you leave without getting a few pro tips in order to prevent those nasty sunburns. Number 1, apply sunscreen 30 minutes before exposure to the sun. Number 2, avoid long-term sun exposure between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. Number 3, if you decide to wear sunglasses, make sure they provide UV protection, because dark glasses without UV protection put your eyes in greater risk than no sunglasses at all. Number 4, not all clothing you can wear is created equal. Make sure that the sun protective clothing has an SPF rating. And number 5, follow the instructions on your sunscreen bottle. This is the one I'm most guilty of and most people I know are most guilty of not following. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more content like this, hit that subscribe button. I put out new videos each and every week to help all of us stay in the best health possible. Stay healthy, stay happy, stay curious, and as always, Have a beautiful day.